In a rush, Julie accidentally buttoned her sweater. That was at the ceremony. When standing on stage to receive the award, a few curious eyes were directed at her, but Julie completely ignored it. However, her husband's stepson Ryan, who was attending as a relative, quickly noticed this small error from his perspective. Ryan didn't say anything at that time, but his eyes seemed to pause, focusing on the lopsided detail on Julie's shirt. This is more than a mere observation. It aroused a new feeling in Ryan, but for Julie, this unintentional costume mistake became an unusual sign. The wrong button sweater isn't just a small detail. It accidentally opens an underground space, where long-suppressed eyes and emotions find opportunities to express. That was the beginning of an undercurrent in Julie and Ryan's relationship. Under the stage lights, Julie had no idea that the confidence she exuded was gradually turning into another type of attention. After the awards ceremony, the atmosphere in Julie and Greg's house in the Texas suburbs remained as normal as usual. Greg, the husband, is busy with business. The large house became quiet, with only Julie and Ryan, Greg's stepson, just returning from college and resting here on summer vacation. Julie continued to maintain her daily routine, waking up early, preparing breakfast, and taking care of the garden behind the house. Ryan often appears in the kitchen or out in the garden, as part of a space that Julie seems to belong to only her. Mornings became a time when Ryan and Julie regularly saw each other. While Greg left home early, Ryan sat quietly in the kitchen, observing Julie preparing breakfast. One morning, when Julie carelessly dropped her cup of coffee, Ryan quickly bent down to help her. Their hands touched each other accidentally. It was a fleeting moment but left an awkwardness that neither of them could ignore. Ryan started helping Julie with chores around the house, fixing the faucet, rearranging books on the shelf. Julie realized Ryan's presence was no longer just a natural part of the house but began to bring a new, different feeling. Julie felt that Ryan's presence was like a source of light that she had been missing for so long. Made her realize that the void in her relationship with Greg was bigger than she thought. And this was starting to make her feel dangerous. Afternoons in suburban Texas are always peaceful with pale sunlight and a light breeze. Julie spends most of her time tending to the garden behind her house where she finds relaxation and quiet after teaching hours. Ryan, instead of being busy with his own plans as usual, began to spend more time in this garden. One afternoon, while Julie was pruning the rose branches, she accidentally dropped the scissors to the ground. Ryan, standing nearby, bent down to pick it up for her. This time, his hand held it a beat longer, his eyes meeting hers. Julie paused and didn't say anything, but a strange feeling rose up, making her unable to look away. Such moments began to happen more frequently. Ryan, with his calmness and quiet concern, always finds a way to help Julie with the little things, fixing the garden chair, helping carry heavy potted plants, or even just standing by her side when she needs to climb the cutting ladder. Prune tall branches. When Julie slipped on the steps of her house, Ryan quickly caught her. Julie begins to realize that Ryan's presence in her daily life is no longer simply a stepmother-stepson relationship. Ryan wasn't the type to talk too much. He had a deep concern that she had lacked in her relationship with Greg. More and more, Julie felt pulled into a whirlwind of emotions that she could not control. The more she realized that this should not happen. "I'm going too far," she thought to herself, but her heart said otherwise. Julie's husband, returning after a long business trip. As a busy businessman, Greg rarely pays attention to small details in the family. But this time, the interaction between Julie and Ryan did not escape his sharp observational eyes. In the evening in the big house, under the warm light, Greg sat in the living room, watching Julie and Ryan chatting in the kitchen from afar. Not unusual gestures, but the comfort and nature between them made him feel uneasy. While Julie and Ryan were repairing a broken flower pot in the garden, Greg suddenly appeared, standing at the entrance. Julie was startled, and Ryan quickly stood up straight, his expression unchanged but clearly a little nervous. Greg looked at them for a moment, then broke the silence with a calm but expressive voice. "It seems you two work very well together." Julie tries to keep her natural look. "Ryan was just helping me. The flower pot fell over because of the wind yesterday." Greg didn't say anything more, just smiled faintly and turned around to go into the house. The way he walked, his slow gait, left an overwhelming tension in the air. Ryan looked at Julie, his eyes questioning. Julie just shook her head, as if to say, "It's okay, don't mind." Julie, no matter how hard she tried to calm herself down, couldn't deny that Greg had seen something. She knew if Greg really had doubts, things would quickly get out of control. But Julie knows that this will only make the situation more dangerous. Greg, with the hunch of a husband and astute businessman, decides to go further to find out the relationship between Julie and Ryan. He hired a private detective to monitor all activities in the house. Meanwhile, Julie tries to return to her normal routine, but the pressure from Greg's judgmental eyes and feelings of insecurity grow. At a family dinner, Greg, Julie and Ryan sat and ate together in an awkward atmosphere. The sound of knives and forks hitting plates rang out steadily, but no one said a word. Greg sat at the head of the table, his eyes glancing over at the other two people, as if waiting for something. After a moment of silence, Greg dropped the knife and fork on the table, making a strong sound. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. "Julie, you seem to be very busy lately, huh?" Greg asked, voice calm but eyes cold. Julie stopped eating, raised her head and looked at him. "What do you mean?" Greg smirked. "I was just wondering, with all the time I was away, what you did to keep busy." Ryan looked up, his expression calm but his eyes shining with alertness. Greg turned his gaze to him. "And you, Ryan? You help your family more than you think. Good job." Julie felt her face getting hot. She tried to calm herself, but Greg wouldn't stop. He pulled out a folder of documents from his pocket and placed it firmly on the table. It's interesting that I found out something about how you two interacted recently, Greg said, his voice sharp as a knife. Julie took the file, her hands shaking as she turned the pages. The photos show her and Ryan in the backyard, in the kitchen, and times when they were closer than necessary. Julie paled. Greg didn't need to say another word to make the situation clear. The evidence is too clear. Silence filled the room, making Julie feel suffocated. She realized the secret she tried to hide was exposed. Julie's psychology right now is a mess between fear, guilt, and confusion. As for Ryan, although he kept calm, his eyes could not hide his anger at Greg's threat. Greg, with a triumphant expression, sat waiting for Julie's defense. But he was not at all prepared for what was about to happen. Greg leaned back in his chair, his cold gaze fixed on Julie. "Explain," he said, his voice calm but forceful. Julie sat motionless, her words catching in her throat. Before her were the photos, undeniable evidence of intimate moments between her and Ryan. Ryan stood abruptly, breaking the silence. "Enough, Dad. You don't understand anything." His voice was firm but not without anger. Greg chuckled, tapping his fingers on the table. "Don't understand? I think what I saw was very clear. What are you doing to my wife, Ryan?" Julie gathered her courage and stood up. "Greg, it's not what you think." But Greg interrupted, his voice growing harsher. "It's not what I think. Julie, I'm not an idiot." Ryan stepped forward, blocking Greg and Julie, his eyes determined. Dad never cared about her. He abandoned her. Anyone can see that. The room exploded, the tension reaching a boiling point. All the pent-up frustrations were now unleashed, pushing the three of them into a situation of no return. After the tense confrontation, Julie and Ryan knew they couldn't stay. Greg retreated into his office, but not before giving him a cold warning. "You will pay." Julie packed her things in a panic, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it was about to explode. Ryan walked into the room, eyes determined. "We have to leave here tonight," he said, his voice low but firm. Julie asked, her hands shaking as she stuffed her things into her suitcase. "Greg won't leave us alone. We'll find a way," Ryan replied, taking Julie's hand, his eyes full of determination. "I won't let him hurt you anymore." It was raining when they quietly left the house. Ryan's truck rolled down the gravel road, leaving the house and what they once called family behind. Julie looked in the rearview mirror, feeling a mixture of fear and relief. Ahead of them is a journey full of uncertainty, but Julie knows she has no other choice. Beside Ryan, she felt a glimmer of hope, a small ray of light in the stormy darkness. Congratulations on watching the whole video. So you don't miss the next video, please give me a like button and comment to catch the next video.